stillness itself is contagious, that peace is magnetic, and that one person breathing from their true center can change the energy of an entire room. You've traveled far without leaving your position, not through territories, but through layers of yourself, through rhythm, silence, observation. The most accomplished people in history mastered something you were never taught: how to access infinite power through absolute stillness. By traveling through your own layers, you've discovered something the world doesn't want you to know. The most powerful action is often complete non-action. We inhabit a culture that worships activity, telling us that more effort equals greater results, keeping us constantly busy, constantly struggling, constantly pushing toward the next goal. But the quantum field responding to your consciousness, operates by entirely different principles. The field doesn't respond to the intensity of your effort. It responds to the quality of your alignment. It doesn't care about your to-do lists or 5-year plans. It cares about your frequency, your coherence, your state of being. The most coherent state of all is stillness. Not the stillness of exhaustion or surrender, but the dynamic stillness of a mountain. Consider a mountain for a moment. It appears completely still, but it's tremendously powerful. It doesn't fight against storms. It allows them to pass. It doesn't chase sunsets. It simply receives light. Rivers flow around it. Seasons change over it. Yet it remains centered in its own presence. This is the kind of stillness that moves worlds. When you learn to breathe in this mountain-like stillness, something extraordinary happens. Reality begins reorganizing itself around you instead of against you. Opportunities you could never have forced begin appearing naturally. People who can assist you seem to cross your path at precisely the right moment. Solutions to problems you've been struggling with suddenly become obvious. This isn't magic, it's physics. When you're in a state of stillness and coherence, you're no longer transmitting the chaotic signals of desperation, control, or struggle. Instead, you're emanating the clear frequency of trust, receptivity, and alignment. The field responds to this clarity by organizing circumstances to match your state. Consider the eye of a hurricane. Around it, winds roar at hundreds of miles per hour. Destruction and chaos spin in every direction. But at the very center, there's perfect calm, perfect stillness. From that center, the entire storm system is organized. This is the kind of stillness you can cultivate within yourself. Not the stillness of someone who has given up, but the stillness of someone who has learned to be the organizing principle of their own life. The difference between control and alignment becomes crystal clear in this stillness. Control tries to manipulate external circumstances to match internal desires. Alignment allows internal coherence to magnetize external harmony. Control is exhausting because you're fighting against the natural flow of life. Alignment is effortless because you're cooperating with it. When you breathe consciously, when you rest in the quantum gap, when you inhabit your inner temple completely, you're not trying to make things happen. You're allowing things to happen through you. You become a clear channel for the universe's intelligence to express itself in your life. Tell me in the comments what old pattern or way of being you're ready to release through this practice. What transformation are you calling into your life? It's important to understand that this doesn't mean becoming passive or lazy. True stillness is incredibly alive, incredibly aware. It's the stillness of a master archer just before releasing the arrow, completely focused, completely present, completely ready for whatever emerges from this place of centeredness. Your actions become naturally effortless and incredibly effective because they're arising from alignment instead of forced effort. But here's what happens when you truly embody this stillness. You begin accessing what can be called the zero-point field of possibility. This is a state where all potential futures exist simultaneously waiting for consciousness to collapse them into reality. In this field, there are no limitations, no scarcity, no impossibilities, just infinite creative potential. The ancient Vedic texts called this state Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. In Turiya, you're not simply experiencing reality, you're actively participating in its creation. Time becomes fluid, space becomes malleable. And what you once thought were fixed laws of physics reveal themselves to be more like guidelines that consciousness can transcend. When you breathe from this 0 point stillness, you're not trying to manifest specific outcomes. You're opening to the highest possibility that wants to emerge through you. Sometimes this looks like what you thought you wanted. Sometimes it looks completely different, but serves your evolution in ways you never could have imagined. This is the fundamental difference between ego manifestation and soul manifestation. Ego manifestation tries to use consciousness to get what it thinks it needs. Soul manifestation allows consciousness to express what it knows you need for your highest evolution. The ego creates from limitation and scarcity. The soul creates from infinite abundance and possibility. The deepest insight is that you don't need to become anything or achieve anything to access this 0 point field. You already are it. You always have been it. The practices we've explored, conscious breathing, observer awareness, quantum gaps, aren't about creating something new. They're about remembering something eternal that has always been present. Every breath you've ever taken has been the universe breathing through you. Every thought you've ever had has been consciousness exploring itself through your unique perspective. Every emotion you've ever felt has been love expressing itself in infinite forms. You're not a separate being trying to connect with the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself as you. When this truth lands not just as an intellectual idea, but as a lived reality, your entire relationship with life transforms. You stop trying to make life work for you and begin allowing life to work through you. You stop seeing yourself as a wave trying to reach the ocean and recognize yourself as the ocean expressing itself as a wave. This recognition doesn't make you passive or detached. It makes you incredibly responsive and engaged. But now your engagement comes from love instead of need, from completeness instead of seeking, from service instead of self-interest. You become what the Taoists called the sage, someone whose actions arise spontaneously in alignment with the natural flow of existence. Now, I want you to take a moment and comment below with this phrase: I choose to breathe as the observer. This isn't just a comment. It's an energetic declaration to the field that you're ready to enter this new way of being. It's a conscious interruption in the old cycle of unconscious breathing. As you've journeyed through this understanding, if this material is touching something deep within you, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency. This is more than content consumption. You're joining a movement of conscious beings who understand that reality transformation begins from within. You're aligning with a community that knows consciousness creates reality. Now, as you prepare to leave this space, take this rhythm with you. You return not to who you were, but to who you always were beneath the noise. Breath, you hear, and now reveals the final truth. Stillness isn't the absence of power. Stillness is power itself. You've journeyed through the sacred nature of breathing, discovering that those 23,000 daily breaths aren't mere biological functions, but opportunities for conscious creation. You've awakened the inner observer, that eternal part of you that watches thoughts like clouds passing through an infinite sky. In the quantum gap between breaths, you found the sacred door where intention crystallizes into reality. Through building your inner temple, you learned that your body isn't just flesh and bone, but a living sanctuary, storing your life stories while offering pathways for healing and transformation. You discovered that your breathing creates an electromagnetic field extending 8 feet around you, making you a constant transmitter of peace or chaos to everyone you encounter. And finally, you touched the profound truth that the most powerful action is often no action. The dynamic stillness that allows reality to reorganize around your coherent presence instead of forcing it to bend to your will. There will be moments when the world pulls you away, when emotion clouds the lens, and thoughts spiral. In those moments, remember, the shortest path home is the breath. 3 conscious inhalations can bring you back to the observer. One gap between breaths can reconnect you to the quantum field. A single moment of stillness can restore your inner temple. This isn't about perfection, it's about returning. Every time you remember to breathe consciously, you're not just improving your day, you're reshaping your reality from the quantum level up. You're becoming a living demonstration that consciousness, not circumstance, is the true creative force. And here's something beautiful that happens as you continue this practice. You begin to notice that life begins to breathe you back. The boundaries between your personal breathing and the breathing of life itself begin to dissolve. You realize that every inhalation is life giving itself to you, and every exhalation is you giving yourself back to life. You're no longer breathing. Life is breathing through you, and you become what you always were, a sacred channel of the universe's infinite breath. This reciprocal breathing becomes a constant prayer, a continuous communion with the creative force of existence. In this state, synchronicities multiply exponentially. The right people appear at perfect moments. Opportunities align in ways that seem impossible. Solutions emerge from nowhere. Resources flow effortlessly. This isn't because you're manipulating reality, it's because you've stopped interfering with reality's natural tendency to support consciousness in its highest expression. You begin to understand that what you once called miracles are simply what happens when consciousness moves from its natural state of coherence. Healing becomes natural. Abundance becomes effortless. Love becomes unconditional. Peace becomes unshakable. Not because you've achieved these states, but because you've stopped blocking them. The ancient masters knew this secret. They understood that the ultimate spiritual practice isn't about becoming enlightened. It's about removing the obstacles to the enlightenment that's already here. And breathing is the master key that unlocks every door, dissolves every barrier, and reveals the infinite potential that has always been your true nature. As you embody this understanding more completely, you become what can be called a reality anchor, someone whose very presence reminds others of their own infinite nature. You don't need to teach or preach or convince anyone of anything. Your coherent field state becomes a silent invitation for others to remember their own truth. This is how consciousness evolves, not through force or effort, but through the magnetic power of authentic embodiment. You become a living demonstration that real transformation happens from the inside out. That consciousness, not circumstance, is the true creative force. That every breath is an opportunity to remember who you really are. Breath brought you home, to who you always were, to what you always knew, to the power that was always yours. The work you're doing isn't just personal transformation, it's planetary transformation. Every moment you choose conscious breathing over unconscious reactivity, you're contributing to the collective awakening of our species. You're helping to birth a new paradigm where consciousness is recognized as primary creative force in the universe. There's a critical mass effect happening now on our planet. As more people awaken to their true nature as conscious creators, the collective field is reaching what scientists call a phase transition, a point where the entire system shifts to a new organizational pattern. Your individual practice of conscious breathing is part of this larger evolutionary moment. You're not just healing yourself, you're participating in the healing of human consciousness itself. Indigenous wisdom keepers have always known this time would come. Hopi prophecies speak of the great purification when humanity would remember its connection to the living earth. Mayan calendars pointed to this era as the end of one cosmic cycle and the beginning of another. Hindu texts describe this as the transition from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, from the age of darkness to the age of truth. What all these traditions understood is that this transition wouldn't happen through external force or dramatic events, but through the silent evolution of individual consciousness awakening to its true nature. Every person who learns to breathe consciously becomes a seed of this new paradigm, helping to anchor higher frequencies of possibility into our collective reality. Before you go, leave a word in the comments that captures the energy you're choosing to embody from here forward. This is your energetic signature to the quantum field, a declaration of the frequency you're entering. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent with this understanding. The more of us who embody this truth, the more the world reflects this reality. Consider making this practice part of your daily rhythm. Perhaps watching this video each morning to anchor this frequency as you begin your day. Or share this with someone who's ready for this understanding. When you share these quantum consciousness concepts, you create an energetic ripple effect that expands a collective consciousness while reinforcing your own embodiment of these principles. Every share accelerates the manifestation of a more conscious world. Now, as you leave this space, take this rhythm with you. Let your breathing be your compass. Let stillness be your throne. Let consciousness walk with you in every word, every choice, every pause. So breathe, not to survive, but to remember. Not to escape, but to embody. Not to control, but to create. Breath is the key. You are the door. Walk through. Now that you understand how breathing creates your electromagnetic field, you're ready to discover what the quantum field truly responds to. There's a specific element that determines whether your intentions manifest or dissolve. And understanding this changes everything about how you approach creation itself. Every breath you take from now on carries the potential for transformation. You're no longer a passive observer of your life, but an active participant in creating your reality. The universe is breathing through you, and you're breathing back to the universe in an eternal dance of conscious creation. Remember, you don't need to be perfect in this practice. You just need to be conscious. Every moment of breathing awareness is a step toward your true nature as a creator of reality. Every pause between breaths is an opportunity to touch the infinite. Every exhale is a chance to release what no longer serves you. Every inhale is an invitation to receive life in its fullness. You now possess the keys to access states of consciousness that most people never experience. Use them with wisdom. Use them with love. Use them in service not just of your own evolution, but of the evolution of all consciousness. The world needs people like you, as people who understand that real change begins from within, that true peace is cultivated in the silence between thoughts, and that authentic power emerges from deep stillness. You're part of a new wave of consciousness that's transforming our planet from the inside out. Breathe consciously. Live consciously. Love consciously, and watch how the universe conspires to support your awakening journey. Breath brought you this far. Now let it take you home, home to the truth of who you really are. You're not just a human being having a spiritual experience. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And now you know how to use your breathing to remember this in every moment. The universe is waiting to see what you're going to create. Breathe and let the magic begin.